Hi and welcome, I'm Kathu, and I guess this is me vlogging about the Nine of Cups. The last snowdrops are dancing in the wind. I'm feeling the need to vlog, so share my thoughts and also my walk with this count today, because it's been on my mind for a week or so, maybe a bit more. I'm left with many questions and maybe it can be inspiring to others, but mainly I just want to sort out my thoughts. I do love the idea of this card, but I also do struggle to see it in practice and to bring it into my personal practice and to make it real in whatever I'm doing. The elder tree, there it is. Les futures anemones, Sylvie. Do I know the name of every single flower in English? Certainly not. Ça, c'est potentiellement de la jacinthe des bois. Et ça, c'est de la ficaire. Okay, you have to go with it. I have no clue how to say that in English. Oh, we can see the anemone better there. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm so happy. It's gonna rain anyway, so they wouldn't open. They only open when it doesn't. They are very good with weather forecasts, anemone. I'll put the name in English right there. Don't worry. I was saying that I have a hard time making this card, the Nine of Cups, lived experience. Something that I can relate to on a theoretical level, but I have a very hard time to connect to it as a lived experience, as an embodied experience. For most of the tarot cards, I would have a resonance somewhere in my body, but this one, it's like it just falls beside my body. But it's probably because it's in the imagination space. Maybe I don't quite know how to bring the imagination into my body. And probably one of the ways to do it is through visualizations and meditation. It's gonna sound as if I'm making up excuses, but yeah, maybe I'm making excuses, but in order for me to be able to have this kind of visualized, guided meditation, pathworking meditation, I would have to have a safe space, and I don't have that right now because we live in a flat without central heating system, and without the central heating system you can't really go into the bedroom and say, oh, I'm gonna have a meditation quietly here, because it's way too cold for meditation, right? So, but I mean, there's always something. It's easy to find excuses, but it must be beyond that. If I try to think beyond that, I think, well, there's an example that sounded appropriate along the way to here. I was walking along the river and there was an old lady. She looked kind and mean as I walked past her earlier on my walk, and she was carrying a plastic bag with peeled off apple skin. The parts of the apple that you as a human don't eat because they are so full of chemicals, like terrible for your health, but you still consider that it's okay to give it to your chicken or sheep, or like, doesn't make any sense to me, seriously, the way that we give to such tiny animals the food that we wouldn't eat ourselves, but whatever. This person goes to a closed area where there are sheep and a horse, and across the fence she throws her food for them, which is, I don't know if it's good or not, and I know it's sometimes sensitive to know what kind of food you are allowed to give to some animals, but maybe she knows, I don't know, so she's doing that. Maybe it's cute, I don't know, I don't have time to think about it, because there are two young women coming, just like almost running towards her, and they're screaming. Well, not screaming. They're shouting, but in a friendly, very friendly way. Hey, mogen wij helpen? Basically, they want to help and feed the animals because it's so nice. To feed the animals. Of course they would. I mean, it's so nice to do. And the young person pretends that she can hear them, and like in a very avoidant and arrogant way. And so they keep screaming, "Are we allowed to help? Are we allowed to help?" And then at some point she just says, "No." But okay, this is a part of the story that makes a lot of sense when you know where we are this year, leading up to elections and far rights winning all over the place, here in Belgium and probably elsewhere, well, in Flanders anyway. And yeah, those two women, they were wearing a hijab. So it was obviously, because she was very impolite, the old lady, it was obviously a racist. No. And she was like her tone was full of despise, and yeah, it was just so, and she had nothing to say to them. Like she was just like don't approach me, don't talk to me. Her body language was awful. I mean, and there was like, gosh, it's so hard. Well, I insulted her along the way, obviously, in French, so she probably didn't understand me, but I too, because, and I'm just like, it's so hard to keep a space where you can dream and you can imagine a better future collectively and individually because of housing crisis and stuff, but collectively because there's so much going on, and with a massacre in Gaza and racism everywhere and everything. And it's like, I was walking with a 9 of Cups in my hand along the river, and I saw that, and of course it's one of the reasons why I have a hard time connecting with this card. I mean, how do we keep hoping? How do we keep dreaming collectively and as individuals when the future seems to become narrower and narrower, more narrow? And it's just so depressing. I have a very hard time for so many reasons and on so many levels, to have this mind space where I can dream, where I can hope, where I can imagine a better future, and for myself and for others. Because I have a genetic condition, and probably we're going to have worse government coming on. So we're under risk of losing everything because I'm not able to work or anything, you know. And so with the housing crisis, I still have no clue how I'm ever going to be able to put a roof upon our heads. It's also an ironic card today because, well, we just heard that our oldest cat has cancer, so she has very, very little time to live. I'm like, 9 of Cups, you're provoking me right now, seriously. But it's also interesting. I had this card as kind of like, I don't remember what the position was, but it was a nice position in a spread about activism or post-activism and being a poet and a witch, whatever that means in the world as it is, and where I'm standing right now, coming from a more activist background and going towards some activism that is less activist and more I don't know, it's hard to explain, and this is something that I'm gonna need a lot of time to think about. I find the 9 of Cups more palpable, easier to connect with when I regard it as a card of contentment. Oh wait, look at those flowers. Oh my god, I love them. I was hoping they would be here, but I wasn't sure because a week ago or 6 days ago there was nothing of this kind yet. Oh, I'm so happy. Every day in the forest is another you, and this is probably not sure. Oh, I want to spend each day in the forest to find new growth. Look at that. Of course I had to come here. Beautiful buzzards over there. I always forget how you say the names of those big birds in English. Let me just... Oh, where are they? There. It's gonna be very difficult to see, right? Oh, maybe you do. I have to come here to listen to the buzzards. Sometimes you see them, not every time. I love birds of prey. And in the meantime, I just remembered that there's a card about this plant in the James Oracle and that I have it in my pocket. So it's the same name in English or in French, but I just have no clue how to pronounce it. So I will not bother you with my pronunciation. I had a thought and then it went away. So I'm gonna go on with the idea of contentment. That I'm very good with. I'm very good with thinking of the Nine of Cups, just like the Nine of Pentacles to some extent, as a kind of contentment. And shut up. Because I like to use tarot to be in the now, in the present time. And yeah, it's a very good time for me, my tarot practice, to be centered in the here and now, and to not overthink about the past or what might happen. And that's what I love about my tarot practice. And then the Knight of Cups comes and it's like, yeah, it's good, isn't it, to be in the now and then, but it doesn't say it in the same way that in the Nine of Pentacles. You can just enjoy this time and see what you've gone through and be like, okay, I deserve a bit of time to myself. With the Nine of Cups, I feel like this time must also be a time for introspection, deep thinking, and yeah, wishes, dreams, visualization, and planting seeds in your heart for what the future might be. And not all of them are gonna sprout at some point. It's okay, but it's cultivating this heart space for potential. It's so hard for me. I think I'm pretty good at being happy, grateful, centered, rooted in the present. But I don't like to have my antenna out and to think, oh, what am I hoping for? What would be my dream? Because I feel like with dreams often comes disappointment, right? Because I don't know, I don't feel like a lot is attainable to me somehow. We are climbing, people, climbing and having fun in the mud because... Okay, I don't know if I would call myself an activist at this point in my life, but one thing is for sure is what I was trying to do as much as I could is to be creating space for alternative in the present. I wasn't so much busy of thinking about the revolution and all the violence implied in the mind of so many people, and about fighting the oppressor and always being in the fight. My fight was in creating those spaces where we could dream the future, but also mostly, and maybe because I did study history, reflect on the past and passing on what previous generation went through, and to reflect on what we were going through and just be there with that. And in the way that during the second wave feminism consciousness raising group or self-help group would, gosh, it's hard to speak, and you go to the top of the hill. So I might sit down for a while just here. Look, there's a bench for us. Ah! Oh, come on. I have never been good with the piscean quality of this card. I've always been better, not excellent probably, but better with how can we be here and how can we bring some change by what we are doing now. And empowering people and reflecting on how we can bring some changes in our everyday life. And people would come to me and be like, you should do some political lobbying and stuff. And I'm like, believe me, I believe that what I'm doing, what we are collectively doing, is much more political than going and see political parties and ask for this and that. Sorry, not sorry. And it's not that I think that nobody should be doing that. It's just not what I'm going to be doing. Do whatever you want. It's just not my priority. Because I guess I didn't even have this figment of hope that going and see political leaders would be changing anything in, for example, and mainly the life of fat people. And I'm still not so much convinced. But I'm glad some people are trying. But yeah, I guess my vulgarizing and parts earth nettle chart makes me be someone a bit like, yeah, pessimistic. Pessimistic. I'm a pest as well, I have to admit. You don't say that in English, right? It means I'm a bitch. It doesn't mean the same in English. It just means insects or something like that, right? I don't know. What should I know? C'est des mélèzes, les arbres là. Mais j'adore les mélèzes là. Mais je sais pas comment on dit in English. Mélèzes. Whatever. They have a name. And how the hell am I supposed to know? It's a bit sad really, because I don't think I'm coming up with options, solutions. I think I'm just going through the video with the same obvious thing that I don't know how to be in the Nine of Cups. I don't know how to embody the Nine of Cups, but how could I? None of the solutions I come up with, they do sound really something that I really believe in. It's like, yeah, I can come up with options, but they don't sound like something that's gonna ring truer or feel strongly. I can't feel strongly in my body or something. But now I'm not an activist anymore, and I think, what am I doing in the world to change it? And how do I wish to change it? And I don't want the Nine of Cups to be solely a card about dreams for yourself, and hopes for yourself, and imagination for yourself. It's really stupid. Well, no, but that's not what I want. We are feeling so stuck currently, and we are trying so hard to survive in this world. So hard. But how can we still dream? My only dream is that I will win the lottery. Apart from that, I can hardly dream. It feels like it's more stressful than anything else. Like it's more like Nine of Swords, and it would be Nine of Cups for me if I imagine, if I allow myself to dream. This is leading me nowhere. I still don't know how to deal with this card. It's always the same kind of noise here on Saturday. Like people cutting wood all the freaking time. Every time I come here, I'm like, I'm gonna have a lovely reading and maybe film a video or something. But there's always so much noise. It's annoying. Let's enjoy the peace with the noise, and the peace and the noise. At some point yesterday, the vlogging in the wood was leading me nowhere. I wasn't reaching any sort of conclusion, however temporary, with the Nine of Cups. So I just went back home and spent a little more time thinking about it, but also simply letting go and not overthink the situation. So I'm seeing you here today with my cat Diaz, and maybe it's something that I should explain before going further with a video in a total vlogging mode here with the old cat sleeping. The thing is, we heard on Friday, and we are Sunday today, that she actually has cancer. And well, she's gonna die pretty quickly because she's almost 16, and we're not gonna do anything too invasive for her. We're just trying to have her suffer as least as it's humanly possible to help her. I mean, something like that. But it's still very sad and pretty much a shock, because we had been seeing for a couple of weeks that everything was aggravating in her case. Everything, we could see that she was starting to be in pain, that things weren't going any better. But somehow, because she's always had some level of problems or health issues one way or another, I wasn't expecting the diagnosis of cancer, and it should go quick. So there's a part of it that is also part of my story, like, yeah, nice, 9 of Cups. Of course, I know that a cat this age is going to die, and I like to be there with my animals when they are reaching the end of their lives. It's also something that's quite significant and important for me, as someone who I guess is not as afraid of death as a lot of people are. I like to be present with people, humans, animals in those moments. So yeah, but it's still heavy news, and I'm kind of still in a bit of a shock. Yeah, so that's the context. She was a bit nervous, so I just decided to sit here and nowhere else, because it's a place where my butch usually sits down to hand sew some tarot patches. So it sounded like a nice place to be with a cat. And here are my tarot cards. Actually, I don't think I'm gonna reach any conclusion here. It's probably very interesting as well to be able to just be there and openly talk about a tarot card, which is with which I might have a more complicated relationship at some point. And it is not because I've been working with tarot for the past 8 years that at some moments I'm still not like, what's going on with this card, and how can I get to know it, and how can I embody it? It's also to show that we never get really experts in tarot. Well, we are getting experts, but we're also still students with some cards or some variations of the cards or some aspects. And there are moments where even the cards that you might feel the more comfortable with end up being like, what's going on? Just, I don't understand it anymore. So I've had that a lot, I guess, during all my journey with tarot. And sometimes it's also okay to be here on camera and just saying, yeah, I'm lost actually. But yeah, I still wanted to dig a little further with this card and trying to bring a little more wisdom is not going to be the word, all right, but perspective, and yeah, gaining a bit more perspective for myself as well. And I guess it has some kind of value also to be able to just show up on video and share my process when I'm kind of stuck with a tarot card. I was thinking about this notion of happiness, contentment, gratitude that is also part of the card, and I chose to pick the Queer Tarot card for it. Yeah, there's this notion of satisfaction and emotional fulfillment that I find so nice in this card, and that I have no obstacles. There's no hurdle between this card and me. That level of understanding of this card is just, it flows, it's nice. I like that. I like to live in a state of gratitude and feeling emotionally fulfilled, even in times of crisis and precariousness and feeling like you're barely surviving. But I can cultivate that. What I cannot manage to cultivate with this card, especially when it feels like I'm trying so hard to survive and keeping myself busy with surviving, and I have little head space for something else. It's the aspect of the dreaming, the wishing, the hopeful state of abundance. Yeah, being abundant with your wishes, being abundant with your hopes, and daring to dream. And as I was saying, having a space in your heart for all those seeds and those wishes, and it's okay to dream, and not everything is gonna get real. Not all dreams do come true, and it's okay, but we still deserve to dream, and we still also live to dream. But how hard is that, considering everything that's going on the planet? And right now my thoughts are especially with Gaza and Rafah, but there's so much, not so much more, but that's much more. And well, that's a point of attention. Obviously, that's very alarming. I went back to what I wrote when I drew this card a couple of days ago during one of my walks, and with all these activism, post-activism musings in mind, and being also activated by someone kind of questioning my perspective on tarot, but also like calling me unscientific. I mean, I still have a background that I don't know. I was very like, it was activating, and my my mind was going like. So I had a tarot reading in order also to gain perspective and not to be too reactive, but to be able to question myself, and also maybe on many levels, this tarot reading was actually very comforting for myself, and telling me, don't put everything you're doing into question just because someone has some critiques that might or might not be legitimate. Some of them might be, others might not, and it's not you don't always have to justify yourself. There was something like that. Anyway, in this reading, I'm probably not going to show, or maybe, I don't care. I intended to make a video in French out of it, but not sure it's going to become something. So I took my notebook and I realized that I drew the 9 of Cups in the Tarot Ultra-Violet. That I have, it's one of those cards that I'm like, what's going on this specific 9 of Cups in a deck that I love, but sometimes have a hard time understanding the minor arcana card. Anyway, the position in the spread was my blind spots, les angles morts. And I think that's why I've been particularly invited into questioning myself with this card and trying to bring those reflections with you, because it hit me when I had that, like, what are my blind spots? My blind spots is that I'm so good, I'd say that about myself, I'm so good at being in the present, in full of embodiment, kind of like the impress mode. The impress mode is very me, and that's all fine, and it matters as well. But at some point this card is like, yeah, but can you imagine a future for what you're doing, and also collectively and on a community level, and for so many things. Because being in the present is very important, also not to be too activated and so many things, but also sometimes it also makes you feel like on a day-to-day basis I'm trying to survive, not to know if I'll ever have a flat, whatever, that is not temporary and precarious. I don't know how to translate that in English, by the way. Anyway, and all of those things, and it feels like a dangerous zone, actually, to say, oh, it's time for projection. It's time to imagine something. And it's a blind spot, because I want to be able to do that, but I struggle to do that, because when we were reaching the end of 2023, I had a very clear, not vision, but hearing of my word for the year ahead. I never have words for the year ahead, but this year I have one. It was hope, because I felt like I was really struggling to connect with the notion of hope, and yeah, maybe projection and dreaming and everything, but hope was the word. Like, not everything is lost. And even if it is, how can you still cultivate the idea that some things might still get better? It's really hard, actually. I mean, I'm not depressed or anything. I would say that my mental health is quite good. I don't have but still, you know, it's kind of depressing to not be able to see yourself in the future. It's nice to be in the present, but you cannot stay there, or the contentment will become stagnant and you will become just, oh, I'm satisfied. And I mean, is it worth it to just stay there and be satisfied? It has to be a temporary state, because you have to keep the flow going, the fountain going. And to, yeah, that's actually, the fountain is very nice way to show it. And also because you want to have all the cups flowing, not just the ones that are like in the past or behind you. You want to keep it in movement and in a state of sharing and abundance and overflowing and so on. And when I see this in comparison with the other nines in the minor arcana, I also think it's never good to dwell in those spaces. Those spaces have to be there. They are part of lives, but they're not, you're reaching the culmination, the end of each series, but you cannot just stay in the 9. You have to make a choice somehow. Are you going to the next level, and it's 10, and 10 is actually really, you're on the edge of something else, or are you going back somewhere? Are you just giving up on some things? But you can't stay there. It has to be something where you're able to put some things into motion. And right, okay. Yeah, it's hard for me. I think I based a lot of my survival on being there in the present. That's what kept me alive. And now I'm being asked, I'm being called to still be able to imagine something else. I'm not very good in the Pisces state of overflowing abundance here with Pisces and Jupiter. That's here. It's not my forte, but I mean, it's time to be there. Okay, right. It's something that, but I know it's my blind spot. So okay, let's go back to the position. Okay, it's all right that I can't see that part of me, that I can't easily connect to it. So what shall we do now? What are we going to do? What am I going to do? And what are we going to do in this video is, okay, what are your, what can you put into place in your life? Kathu, me. What can I put in place in my life to exercise? No, it's not the right word in English. To practice this state of hope. It's a good word. Maybe it should be one of my cards for 2024. So that's a good thing, actually. I have chosen not to pick a card for 2024 yet, because I was feeling like things are still sleeping. We are in the middle of winter. There's no need to rush. I also need to be able to rest and restore. And now we're arriving at the end of February, and you have seen in the first part of the video, right? It's a total different energy. Everything starts to emerge, and emergence is probably one of the very good words that I should bring also to the forefront of my year ahead. And I'm probably gonna be drawing a card of the year soon, very soon. But if I had to pick one face up in a tarot deck and decide this is one card that I want to be in a relationship with and work with, it should be, I guess, the 9 of Cups right now. It shows me, the fact that I'm talking to you when I'm kind of stuck with it shows that it's not going to happen in a day. I can certainly come up with ideas on how to connect with it and on how to connect with the idea, the heart space for the future, and for imagination, and for the dreaming, and for wishes. But it's going to take time. So yeah, I'm probably going to do that. I think one of the very cool way to be doing that would be through writings, because it's one of the things that I like to do in life, and to be writing for myself, maybe some short stories, you know, to be in the fiction world. Something that is really hard for me to do, I guess, but I like to be writing some very short pieces, but about like mythology and also imagining mythology for the current world so that we can carry through the future somehow. And that's probably going to be something really interesting. And because I could be trying to have this imagination flowing and everything, but actually the best way for me to do it is just putting my pen to the paper and starting to write and see what comes up. Certainly. So we talked about pathworking, visualizations, meditations, and so on. Right now, the big thing that I have in mind is I need to go to the seaside, because it's a way for me to get this inspiration. Okay, there's the satisfaction, there's the satisfaction, there's the contentment whenever I'm on the beach looking at the North Sea, but there's also this level of letting go and starting anew. That's I don't quite get anywhere but near the sea. And I probably, even though it's probably gonna mean that I have to sacrifice some other things in the month in order to be able to go there, but I'm probably going to need to be going there, and maybe draw my card of the year by the sea and or in the dunes or something like that, something really poetic and nice. I haven't been doing that for a while, but I love to go to the seaside in February. It's really a time for a reset for me. I don't know if many of you have that as well, but yeah. And Belgium is such a small country that it's not that complicated to go to the seaside. I mean, it is, because public transportation is not that easy, but yeah, it's gonna work. My legs are asleep. It's pretty annoying. It's a bad position. Look at me. Ugh. Okay. And the carpet is full of cat hair. So, oh, my tights now. Anyway, yeah, seaside, it's a very, very nice idea. I should put that on my schedule for the upcoming weeks. It's gonna help me. And to go to the seaside with a notebook and yes, getting lost in this. I need to get lost. I need to lose myself, because otherwise I tend to be too much in controlling modes. And I guess I really need to lose myself, to let myself, to let the movement, to let the flow. How would you say that in English? To let myself be fluid in order to welcome this level of, welcome the tides, I guess. My butch is coming back, so I'm gonna have to end this video, and maybe it's good that way, because I keep talking and talking, but it's getting quite repetitive. I will come up with other ideas on how to incorporate and embody and invite the Nine of Cups in my life, but I'm sure it's not going to be in this video. But nice conclusion to the video is this is going to be my card to work with this year. Maybe not my card of the year, but the card to work with in 2024 for sure. Okay, I need to go. The butch is on the way, and she baked some delicious brownies. They are not brownies, they are blondies. It's gonna be excellent. I mean, I need to eat, people. See you soon. Thank you for being here. Les blondis de Rosebouche. Trop bien.